Geek Out!
I Dig a Pygmy by Charles Hawtrey and the Deaf Aids. Phase 1 in which Doris gets her oats.
Two of us hiding nowhere, and it's a hard earned pay. So, yeah, we're talking about Let It Be.
I like that we forgot the lyrics at the exact same point. That's how in sync we were.
Yeah. We know the title.
Yeah.
We know the title.
Like three words in there, too.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're, this is another installment of Deconstructing the Beatles. I'm Sam.
I'm Jake.
We were talking, I know that Let It Be is technically the last studio album that the Beatles released.
Yes.
But it wasn't the last one they recorded.
No. No, it wasn't.
You see, even though Abbey Road came out in September of 1969 and Let It Be came out in April of 1970, Let It Be, the bulk of it was written and recorded in January of 1969.
Mm-hmm.
So like months before the Abbey Road sessions even fucking start. So I think, not to mention, it's such a more pleasant note to end on Abbey Road.
I don't think it would have taken away anything from the Beatles if they actually ended with Let It Be, like that was the last one they recorded. But it's just such a nice little sweeter ending to it that they ended with Abbey Road.
Yeah, because
on better terms.
Yeah, Let It Be
musically at least.
Musically and honestly, like in terms of like how they get along as a band.
Yeah, as a band, it obviously all still goes sour. But yeah, I think just as a band, and we'll cover all that in the Abbey Road stuff. But definitely, it's a much happier and better ending. Yeah,
you see, after the White Album or during the White Album sessions, it's apparent to everybody in the band that things are starting to shit is going south. Like we mentioned as much during the White Album episodes. There's a lot of tension, a lot of jealousy. They're starting to, mix money together because they've founded Apple Corps.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of distrust. John Lennon's with Yoko Ono, Paul McCartney's with Linda McCartney. Though there's not a lot of, I feel like there isn't a lot of jealousy his way.
No,
but the difference between Linda and Yoko is like hanging out in the studio like all the fucking time.
Yeah. Linda's like a photographer. And she's
and she's got a daughter.
Yeah.
So
how cool is it for to be your stepfather's a Beatle? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the coolest person to have at that time.
Shoot, I wish my father was a Beatle.
Maybe. At the time of recording this, I think yesterday, all my troubles, but it was the anniversary of Brian Epstein's death.
Oh.
Which I think...
Didn't he die this year, though?
Brian Epstein?
Oh, Brian Epstein.
Yeah.
I thought you said George Martin.
No, sorry. Yeah, Brian Epstein. But I mean, he... I think
Brian Epstein dies in 67.
Yeah, I think that was something we kind of touched on, just talking about, because so much of the rest of these episodes outside of the anthology stuff or the past masters and singles, we're going to be talking, about the breakup, and I think we both kind of touched on, at least, I've said that, that is where I really see the beginning of the end for the Beatles.
Yeah, because Brian Epstein's, he keeps them together, and in his absence, the Beatles have to. Paul McCartney's the one that steps up to basically lead the Beatles, and I think there's a lot of resentment because, instead of being this kind of one for all for one, all of a sudden one of them kind of takes a more de facto superior leadership position.
Yeah, and there's a pro and a con to that. The pro is him trying to save the day, and the con is it rubs the other guys the wrong way. And again, Brian was there, really the fifth Beatle, like we've always said, along with Sir George Martin. Holding back the business side and letting the Beatles just play.
Yeah. I think there's also kind of the one that the Beatles do select to replace Brian Epstein, Alan Klein, who, cheated the shit out of the Rolling Stones in the 60s.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney's like, hey, why don't we get my future brother-in-law? And I think just because of the way the relationships were at that time, they were like, you want to put your own man in the management position. So they're like, we're friends with the Rolling Stones, let's get Alan Klein. And, by 1973, it's very clear to the Beatles, oh, this guy is, swindling us out of, millions of pounds. We need to, fucking kick him to the curb. And I think that was something that validated a lot of McCartney post-Beatles, because right after that, he does Band on the Run.
Yeah, I mean, it finally puts that to bed, and, and even though he had...
It's like a moral victory.
Sure. I mean, even though he had plenty of successes, I think we both agree, pre-Band on the Run, he hadn't hit that home run that everyone was expecting.
I don't think critically.
Not critically. No, I mean, like he had singles here. Live and Let Die. He'd had Maybe I'm Amazed. The McCartney 1 album was for the most part pretty solid, but not that people were expecting so much more.
Yeah. Well, I think critically, like McCartney 1 and Ram both kind of took it on the chin.
Yeah, which is funny because
in terms of contemporary reviews.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at Ram now, and I put Ram up with anything. I think Ram is such an outstanding album, even over McCartney 1. McCartney 1 is a great example of a true solo album. You can hear the doors creaking in the background of Linda or the kids playing, because he's recording in his house in Scotland. And so, but it's also, it's like a reemergence of Paul McCartney. Like he's a caveman with a big beard. Oh, he hasn't let it be. But he kind of wakes up from this depression of being 29 and not being a Beatle anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. He takes the breakup of the Beatles the hardest because he's the one that wants it to endure the most. He wants it to keep going. There's a reason why George Harrison puts out a triple album as soon as the Beatles.
And he's also kind of like a poetic justice. He's the first one to have critical acclaim outside of the Beatles. Yeah,
after years of being kind of like shuttled on the sidelines rather unfairly by Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah,
he's finally like, you know what? I've got a fucking triple album. And you know what? It's got like 3 hit singles on it.
Yeah.
And he's the first Beatle to hit number 1 on the charts after the Beatles.
Just a fucking explosion,
Not to mention he's got what, Abbey Road has something which also hits number 1 on the charts.
Yeah, and that's something, yeah, we'll say that. I'll save that for Abbey Road, but something is fucking astounding.
Oh, it's one of the greatest love songs of all time.
Yeah.
But with this album, so again, during the White Album sessions, everyone can kind of tell that something's going up. And McCartney, I think, again, being the one that wants to keep the band going the most, is like, we need to, fucking figure something out. Otherwise, this thing's going to, completely break up. And his idea is, we haven't been touring, in 3 years. We're starting to suffer as musicians. That camaraderie that we would have on the road isn't there anymore. Let's get back to playing live again. Because the original title for Let It Be was Get Back.
Yeah.
The idea was they needed to get back to where they once belonged.
And I think so much of it is, again, Paul McCartney is so much of a one-sided thing with him where he wants to do that, and the rest of them they don't have that itch to play live.
Well, yeah. Harrison was the most vocal against it. He almost quits the band unless Brian Epstein promises him the 66 tour is the last tour. Yeah. I also think, because the White Album sessions end in October of 1968.
Yeah.
The Get Back sessions start in January of 1969.
Yeah.
So 2 months later, 3 months later. Sorry, math. They're already right back to it.
Yeah, and that probably wasn't for the best because they were only getting more friction.
Yeah.
And so just to jump right back into that fire, and again, if you've seen any scenes from the movie, it's obvious.
Yeah, here's another caveat for you listeners at home that might not know. So the Beatles they signed a 3-film contract with United Artists. The first 2 films in that contract are A Hard Day's Night and Help. They tried to get out of the contract with Yellow Submarine, but United Artists was like, well, you don't even voice your own characters, and you only show up for a 10, 20-second cameo at the very end of the movie. Sorry, but you still owe us a movie. And so McCartney's idea is, well, let's just film a documentary about the creation of the next Beatles album.
Yeah. Wasn't his thing to be the creation of it and then perform it live?
The climax of the documentary was supposed to be the first Beatles concert since 1966.
That would have been so cool. You know what I mean? On
paper, it sounds awesome.
On paper, yeah. On paper, it would have sounded cool. Probably if it actually would have gone down, I'm sure they would have been professional about it. And you see the rooftop, they seem to have fun.
That is the climax.
And it is a better way to end it.
You can tell when in that moment, I guess to kind of validate McCartney a bit, they are having a good time on that roof.
You can see though, it's descending down. Paul is clearly having the most fun.
Yeah.
John is he seems to be the happiest in a while, at least performing again.
Yeah.
And
George is kind of ambivalent.
But George has always been like that, so it's kind of, and Ringo just looks freeze. I remember, I think he talked about how cold it was.
Well, yeah, because they're playing in January.
Yeah, on the roof
in London. But I think the thing is, it was supposed to be a documentary about the Beatles creating their next album, but it turned into a documentary of the Beatles breaking up.
Yeah, so many documentaries start with one intention and with something totally different.
Yeah,
And
the problem is, to make this documentary, they could only get the film crews at the time like to film in these film studios in London, and they weren't available until like 8 o'clock in the morning. Historically, the Beatles were the type that would record like late into the night, pull these like massive all-night sessions, and then like sleep until I guess like the following late morning or early afternoon.
Yeah.
So to suddenly force the Beatles to show up at this like cold, frigid movie studio 5 days a week at 8 in the morning was just another big fucking straw.
More gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. So hindsight being 2020, there's a lot of red flags, but they legitimately, they, at least Paul, thought it was for the best.
Now, do you hope this one day gets a release? Like the film, I mean, of course.
Have you actually seen it?
I've never seen the whole thing.
I have.
Yeah.
And I think parts of it are available online. I was actually reading a McCartney interview. Since the last time we recorded one of these, I've actually seen Paul McCartney live.
That's right, yeah. That's true. I can't remember with times and where things fall, but that's true, you did.
Yeah. He actually played 2 songs off this album, which I'll point out.
Okay,
and I'm sure you can guess at least one of them.
I think, yeah.
But, I think McCartney in the interview was like, I don't know what the holdup for the re-release of Let It Be is.
Oh, really?
He was like, if anything, it should be from me because I don't come off that well in the film.
Yeah, I always thought that he was the one he'd probably, again, you can't be held always to what you said in the past and stuff, but like from what I've heard was that he was like, never, because again, he does come off as, for lack of a better phrase, the villain.
Yeah, because as soon, like, you'll see the villains, the villains? Yeah. You'll see the Beatles, like, hanging out in the studio, and as soon as Paul walks into the room, the entire tenor of the room
Or maybe
changes.
he's, like, the teacher. You know what I mean? Or, like, the principal. When you show up, everyone's like, oh, shit.
Back to business.
Yeah, back to business. I think that if it's something that was released now, 40, 50 years on with the Beatles, I think it would be...
Close to 50, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a phenomenal... From the parts I've seen, I think it would be a phenomenal look for just... It's going to sound like such an old man thing, but for like kids today to like see the Beatles as not, these immortal gods of music. And it's not, I'm not saying that like it puts them in a bad light. I think it'd be fascinating. Yeah, it'd be fascinating to show that. Yeah. And there are moments of triumph in it,
Yeah, the concert.
The end of it is a great thing. So I think
the construction of Get Back, that's one of the few songs, that and Let It Be, you see basically from like early beginnings to finished products.
Yeah, maybe in 4 years when it's the 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
or like a Blu-ray special big thing.
I think there's factions within Apple Corps that thinks it, and probably rightfully so, that it hurts the Beatles' image. It hurts the band.
The funny thing is, I think they're bulletproof. I think they're bulletproof nowadays. Sure. I mean, like, they survived bigger than Jesus when they were a band.
Yeah.
I think as much as I was saying that humanizing them, I think that brand, it's the Beatles.
Yeah.
And if McCartney was the one saying he doesn't know what the holdup is, I was always under the assumption that he was the one who was like, no. Yeah. And so if he has no problem with it, let it be seen.
But yeah, to kind of, for all those wondering why Let It Be comes out after Abbey Road, again, the sessions, they're so fucking fraught with tension and just acrimony that they shelve the demos. They shelve those tapes. And it takes like... Phil Spector is brought in by the rest of the Beatles, minus McCartney. He's brought in by John, George, and Ringo to produce something from those demo tapes. And he basically, what you get is this kind of weird attempt to like capture the rawness of those sessions, but then you get tracks like The Long and Winding Road,
like
that
just melodrama,
super overproduced,
and
which McCartney fucking hated.
Oh, dude, again, I obviously can't. I can't even do it justice saying what he says, but look it up. You could find like a photocopy of it online. When
McCartney petitioned to dissolve the Beatles as a business partnership in the 1970s, one of the list of grievances, because it's like the 95 Theses, you have a whole like fucking itemized list. One of the grievances, like is basically the production of The Long and Winding Road.
Yeah, and if you see the letter that he wrote to Phil Spector, it's like the most passive aggressive, badass letter,
and the last line is like, don't ever do it again.
Yeah, don't ever do it again.
Yeah.
And
which they ignore.
Yeah. But it's still badass. And it's funny, we've talked about this a lot, because they released a Let It Be Naked, with a really cool second disc. It's like 50 or 40 some minutes of like a fly on the wall, audio,
raw studio audio.
Yeah, studio. And so you get to hear The Long and Winding Road as McCartney intended, which is very weird because we grew up with the other one.
Yeah, the Phil Spector version.
It's hard not to, because it almost works. It does. I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah, it works as a kind of a sad song. Yeah. Not this big overproduced 70s easy listening number.
No, yeah. I think it's great. But anyway,
but yeah, it takes them 6 to 9 months to produce. Let It Be. So it comes out. Almost a full year later after. Maybe not a full year, but almost about 8 months after Abbey Road. But yeah, let's jump right into it. So the first track on Let It Be is Two of Us, as we kind of indicated.
Yes.
A charming number.
A charming number, yes.
Yeah. I assumed about McCartney and Lennon's friendship.
I knew it's I think it's on the surface it's that, but what I always heard from McCartney was that it was him and Linda would go and just drive around and get lost. And it was something that I think McCartney was like, where are we going? And she was so much like, don't worry about it. And they would just drive into nature, and it was this song that McCartney really wrote about him and Linda. But of course, having him and him and Lennon, singing it, it also takes that on.
There's
very
a subtext
much.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that I love about this album that I think is something that's really cool. Is one, McCartney, again, his vocals are dynamite, doing the higher harmonies in this song, but it's really, some of the last times that McCartney and Lennon really worked together as a songwriting duo.
Yeah.
And so this is a nice little snapshot of that. And I think it's a nice little McCartney number.
It is. If you watch the documentary Let It Be, the biggest argument in that film surrounds the recording of Two of Us.
Oh, really?
Because George Harrison's like, what if I mime the vocal line with the guitar? And basically McCartney dresses him down why that wouldn't work, and he's like, Harrison's finally like, yeah, whatever, man, whatever you say, Paul, I'll go ahead. It's again very passive aggressive. I feel like that's a kind of a hallmark of British disagreements.
Yeah.
They're not big blow ups, they're fucking just all right, there's all that just kind of under
just
bubbling
seething.
Yeah. And apparently it got so bad, and then Lennon apparently being just kind of dismissive the entire time, Harrison quits the band for 2 weeks, and Lennon's like, well, if he doesn't come back by Thursday, let's see if Clapton would be willing to replace him.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that recently. I was like, could you fucking imagine?
And then but McCartney and Ringo were basically it has to be classic lineup.
Yeah. And I mean, it's got to be classic lineup.
But yeah, that was if you ever watched it, that's as uncomfortable as the documentary
McCartney
gets.
always joked that he was the last one to quit the Beatles. Because if you think about it, Ringo was first, then George, and then John.
John's real, and John doesn't come back.
Yeah, and then McCartney is the one who makes it public.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll talk more about John quitting the Beatles next time. But yeah, Two of Us, great song, and again the most uncomfortable moment in the entire documentary. The second song is it's kind of a little favorite of mine, even though it's kind of I think Lennon dismisses it. It's Dig a Pony.
I like this song. It is a nice little subtle jab to the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
Roll-a-Stony.
Because at this point, the Stones have done fucking...
The Stones are on the up.
Their Stones are on the up. I mean, Let It Bleed comes out, 1969.
Vicious.
Yeah, great album.
That's my favorite album cover.
Beggar's Banquet's already come out.
Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah. It's between that or Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers for me takes the cake. I wish it was Let It Bleed, because Taking the Cake would be so perfect for that.
Yeah.
But that is my favorite album cover, and it's got some great fucking jams on it.
Let It Bleed's got Give Me Shelter and everything, but doesn't
it also have Can't Always Get What You Want?
Yeah.
Oh, so
and I think what's his name? Mick Jagger would copy the Beatles while the Beatles were a thing.
Yeah.
Look at His Satanic Majesty's Request, which is basically their Sgt. Pepper's, which is a fucking terrible album. But
and surprisingly, not the first time you and I have talked about that on a podcast.
Yeah.
It was on the Kiss podcast. Yeah. We discussed that one for other reasons.
Yeah. Let's check it out. We mentioned it during the Dynasty episode, but I
love you're just like, it's fucking terrible, because it is.
It is. It's a horrible album.
And the album cover is just horrific. I mean, look at the album cover, for Christ's sake. If anyone ever's like, and look, we said we love the Stones, but if anyone's ever like, the Stones never ripped off the Beatles, look at the fucking cover to that album.
Yeah.
And tell me.
You can judge, never judge a book by its cover. Oh, yeah? Look at Rolling Stones albums.
Does Jagger have that stupid wizard hat on, too?
The shittier the Rolling Stones album cover is, the shittier the album is.
Yeah. But if it's a picture
black and blue.
Yeah, but if it's a picture of a dick in pants, you know it's the best album because it's Sticky Fingers.
Yeah, it's a massive penis.
I remember when I went to buy it on vinyl, I made sure I bought the zipper, the one you could zip up and down.
Yeah.
I remember I bought it and I'm like listening to Bitch. I'm just like zip, 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 zip. Oh, what a fucking jam! That's the best.
Yeah, but Dig a Pony. I mean, it's very clear that Lennon's like, I just loaded it with fucking nonsense. And the only honest line in that song is "All I want is you." He's talking to Yoko about that, and they play it on the rooftop.
It's great. I like the song a lot.
It's a great number.
Yeah,
it's a winner. It's a winner. The next one, lyrically, I love it.
Okay.
It was a song that was recorded right as a demo right before the Beatles left for India, and the produced Phil Spector realized there wasn't a lot of Lennon numbers on Let It Be. And so he basically kind of doctored the demo a bit, changed the speed and stuff. And the song is Across the Universe. This
is one that's go to any college dorm and someone will be playing this in their room. I agree with you. I think the lyrics
are great.
Are he tapped into something that he never tapped into before. Just this, he's a great lyricist, but this amazing imagery.
The idea of words flowing like water from a paper cup. Apparently his first wife, Cynthia, who, she was nagging about something and he was just disinterested and he was like, the words just kept flowing like water from a paper cup. And he's like, that lyric, that metaphor stuck with me.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I think the music is interesting.
It sounds like a demo.
It does. That's the problem. I think the guitar work, it's pretty hypnotizing as well, but that might also be more the lyrics, 70-30, But yeah, I think this is some of the best in my, I don't know if you agree, but some of the best lyrics he ever wrote.
Yeah, no, again, lyrically, it's one of, Lennon's strongest showings. I just wish the quality of the, the actual song was a little better.
Me too. Because this is one that I would have liked to hear, that wall of sound on.
Yeah.
The big, the orchestra and everything.
Come on, Lennon, you got along with Spector.
That's the song I would have liked to hear it on.
At that point, he was so disinterested with the Beatles. He's like, "Look, I've got the Plastic Ono Band." It's like, well, that's a phenomenal album, but could you just could you just come back to clean that up a bit?
Yeah.
The next one is actually the last song that the Beatles ever recorded, not all together. I mean, at this point, again, John's gone, and everybody else is on the way out. But it's "I Me Mine," which George Harrison, it's my favorite Harrison song on the album. He's only got 2. But it's a song I think very much about the kind of the infighting and the egos within the Beatles. Harrison had kind of written it as this big waltz, and he basically polished it off early in 1970 with Phil Spector. And it's a great little number.
I like that waltzy aspect of it when it kicks into the chorus. But it's all right. It's
there.
It's there.
Yeah.
A clever title, very Harrison title. I think it was the title of his book.
His autobiography is also called "I Me Mine."
I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So you got that out of it.
Yeah. There you go. The next song is it's filler. It's Dig It.
Dig it. Dig it. Dig it. Dig it.
It's basically a song. It's just a jam session, man.
Yeah.
It's the Beatles kind of hanging out in the studio, just kind of playing, just kind of fucking around.
It's a perfect. The best part of it is that it's a great intro to the next song, with his little high pitched vocals at the end.
Yeah.
Hark the herald angels sing, or whatever he says. It reminds me of something out of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Well, because Lennon would always make fun of Let It Be because he thought it was kind of this sacrosanct kind of almost theological number. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And so when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. But the thing is, when he's talking about Mother Mary, he's not talking about the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney's talking about his mom.
His mom, came to him in a dream.
Yeah. Basically, all the Let It Be is, and which he, of course, played at when I saw him live.
Of course.
I'm sure both times you've seen him, he played Let It Be.
Oh, yeah. And I have a pretty good idea what the next one is, but I'll let you know if I was right or wrong.
Sure. It's not Long and Winding Road.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but so
I definitely think I know what it is.
So the stress of trying to keep the Beatles together, especially during these sessions, are just starting to weigh heavily on Paul McCartney. And in a dream, because his mother died when he was, a teenager.
Yeah, same with, that's what helped him and Lennon bond.
Yeah. She shows up in a dream, and she's just like, everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to be fine. Just let it be. And so that's how Let It Be isn't this big religious song. It's a song about kind of comfort during times of trouble.
Yeah. It's during, was it the Live Aid that when Queen just stole the damn show?
Yeah.
Like Paul McCartney just drove in and played that song and pieced out. You know what I mean? Like it's a song he can come and like shut the house down with. Mm-hmm. What was I going to say? Oh, it's this is the song where I think Lennon ribs McCartney by singing "Let It Be, Let It See, Let It D, Let It E."
Yeah, again, he would always make fun of him over the song because he thought it was just this holier than thou.
It's probably
song.
Because he was a little jealous of it.
You know what I mean?
Because like
but again, there's jealousies running strong.
I think if Lennon was really, aside from like the granny shit, which his song is not, and
isn't really any granny shit.
There's really not any granny shit on this. Is there?
Not until Abbey Road.
Yeah, there's some granny shit on Abbey Road.
But I love just one big piece of granny shit.
I love a good granny shit. But no, Let It Be. It's my sister's favorite Beatles song. It's the last song I ever played at a piano recital. I used to take piano lessons.
Yeah.
This is the song I made. I was like, I have to learn this song to play, and
sure.
It's huge. I think it's our. I don't want to speak for him entirely, but I think it's our buddy TJ's favorite Beatles song of all time.
Oh, okay.
I think
it's a great one. It's between this and the album closer is my favorite Beatles song on Let It Be.
Yeah. You know what though? Like this isn't my favorite McCartney track on the album.
Is it the last one?
No.
Is it the one that you think he plays live? Like that I saw him do?
We'll get to it. It's not Let It Be. I love Let It Be, but it's it's good stuff.
The next one is another kind of filler song. It's another basic jam session. They're covering an old folk song called Maggie May.
Oh, dirty Maggie May, you take my heart away. And he's like, any more? The way he says more. There's elements that I like of it, even though I don't like necessarily this and dig it, but like they give you the impression that it's like a live jam. You know what I mean? Like the whole album is one big live jam session.
Yeah, to kind of I think capitalize on the spirit of the documentary and everything.
Yeah.
Until you get to like Long and Winding Road, you're like, well, why is that there? But there's songs that they recorded during the Get Back sessions, which I would have taken over Dig It or Maggie May, like, Old Brown Shoe would have been fucking awesome.
The bass line in that, dude. The fucking bass line in Old Brown Shoe.
All Good Things was first demoed during the Get Back sessions. You can hear as much during the Beatles anthology.
Mm-hmm.
The I Want You, She's So Heavy, or not I Want You, She's So Heavy. That shows up on the next album.
Yeah.
What's that? Don't Let Me Down. They even played "Don't Let Me Down" on the rooftop.
"Don't Let Me
concert.
Down" is on the "Let It Be Naked" one.
Yeah,
that is a fucking great song.
That's a great song.
I love that song, and I really wish that was on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's stuff like, why didn't you just include these songs?
Did you ever hear? I mean, I'm sure you have, obviously, because you listen to the Beatles anthology stuff. Remember on Beatles anthology, he wrote the song for for Bad Company or Bad Finger, where it was the "If You Want It, Here It Is, Come and Get It." Mm-hmm. I was like McCartney's version of that on anthology. Yeah. Who knows? I wish it was on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs that I would take over Maggie May and dig it.
Yeah. But again, maybe that was what they were trying to do. They'd throw these songs in there. Hey, we're having fun, aren't we?
Yeah. Are we having fun?
Yes. Are we having fun yet? I'm having fun. Ha 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 ha. In between, just holding your breath and seething in anger.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Fuck you. My facial hair's better. Fuck you.
Yeah. There's basically two stipulations that George Harrison kind of has when he comes back. He doesn't want to record in the movie studio anymore. He has them relocate to the Abbey Road studios.
Smart.
The film crews are still there, but at least they're like in familiar territory. And he also he brings in his friend Billy Preston to play keyboards on a lot of the songs.
Who was the first musical guest on SNL.
I did not know that.
Ever.
He also does the song...
Along with George Carlin, the first guest.
Oh. Well, there's your bit
if you ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
And the last bit of trivia from that, the first person to ever say live from New York at Saturday night, Chevy Chase.
Oh. Well, didn't he always say it?
Well, it became
for
a thing.
that one season?
But yeah, I mean, he was the first person ever to drop, and I guess they just kept him going with it.
Yeah.
So there's your history lesson.
Yeah. Wise up.
Yeah.
Also, the Beatles enjoyed Saturday Night Live.
They did.
At least John and Paul.
Yeah. George showed up. He showed up on. Remember when they had that famous thing when Lorne Michaels was.
He offers the check.
He was like, if Lennon and McCartney, the Beatles are here, and then he made a joke like, even if Lennon and McCartney are here, come by, and it's like, it was like a small amount.
It was like $3,000.
Yeah, but it's like, this is the max we can give, blah blah blah. And the story is Lennon and McCartney were watching that together.
Yeah, which John and Paul kind of have since corroborated.
Yeah, that they were there watching it together, and they were ready to do it. They were down the fucking street.
Yeah, because the Dakotas in Manhattan. Yeah,
and they were like, "Now we're too tired."
Yeah,
and they made a funny, interesting
called Two of Us.
Two of Us. Yeah, they made a back when VH1 made their own movies before everyone else started making their own on their own networks. It's an interesting one. I remember the guy who played McCartney.
His Aidan Quinn.
Yeah, met him like at a ski holiday. And he's like, "Oh, good job." But I remember watching that just because I wanted anything Beatles related.
How wild! Forget what would happen if Clapton replaced George Harrison. How wild would it have been if John Lennon and Paul McCartney showed up on that episode of Saturday Night Live?
They'd still be clapping. You know what I mean?
We'd be clapping
They'd
too.
still be you'd be born into clapping out of the womb.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but Lennon and McCartney.
Know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that would have been fucking huge. Anyway, Harrison later on very funnily showed up and he was like, "I'm here for the check," and Lorne Michaels was like, "They all have to be here." He's like, "I won't my check though," which I thought was very funny.
I mean, because George and Paul premiered music videos on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I mean McCartney premiered "Coming Up"
off
live
McCartney
2, which inspired Lennon to get back into the game, and also they knocked on McCartney's door in London, like whatever time it was, like middle of the morning. And he's like, "Oh, hello," and he comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, here's a new video coming up."
How wild, because again, like you said, it was something that inspired Lennon to get out of his self-imposed retirement. Just imagine like Lennon watching like Saturday Night, like just doing his like Saturday routine, and then watching like Saturday Night Live at the end of a long day.
You know who I think it's exactly like? The scene in Rocky 2 where Mick is sitting on the bed with one sock on and he's like drinking like water soup with crackers, and he sees it coming up and he goes, "Lousy bum," and he does it. That's how I imagined Lennon coming out of retirement. Yoko's in a bag on the floor. Yes. That's how I imagine it.
Yeah, and then George premiered Crackerbox Palace on what a fucking song. Off 33 1/3. But so those songs aren't on Let It Be.
None of those songs are. Coming up's like a decade later.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. But the next song was the other song that Paul played live. It was "I've Got a Feeling."
Oh shit! Okay, I thought it was "Get Back" because
that's right. He played 3 songs.
Okay. So I've got a feeling that's fucking cool, man. Because I don't think he played that when I saw him. And that song, I'd have to check the set lists. I don't remember, but that song is fucking dank. I love that song.
Oh, it's one of my favorites on the album.
And one of the coolest things about it. I'm sorry, I just ruined that fucking song by saying that. One of the coolest things about that song is McCartney does the heavy stuff, Lennon does the softer melody stuff.
Everybody's had a hard year.
Yeah. Now, when I went to Abbey Road in the River the first year with Sir TJ, and my friend Alice and Josh, not our Josh, every band that played "I've Got a Feeling," the song would collapse. For some reason, that was like the hardest song. I don't know why it was. But not every band. But it's such a great rocker. And I actually, like Obla Di Obla Da, I actually prefer the anthology version a little more because it's a little more raw.
Yeah. The idea with "I've Got a Feeling," and McCartney and Lennon had done this years prior, and unfortunately this is the last time they really do it. They each had their own separate song ideas. They did it with "Baby You're a Rich Man," for example. But anyway, they each had their "Cry Baby Cry," but they had their own separate songs. McCartney had "I've Got a Feeling." Lennon had a song called "Hard Year," and they combined them into one.
Yeah.
And that's how you get "I've Got a Feeling."
Yeah.
Because Lennon had a hard year. He had just gone through a costly divorce. Yoko had just had a miscarriage. They'd been in a car accident. They'd been arrested for drug possession. The Beatles were breaking up. So yeah, he was writing very much from a place of, like, he had had a hard fucking year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great fucking song, man. I love McCartney's just scathing vocal line, just shreds. Yeah. And, Ringo's going off on the drums. It's great.
My favorite performance on the rooftop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Over "Get Back," it's
"Get Back" is nice. I like the image of McCartney in like that kind of like skinny brown suit with the Jesus beard and long hair. He actually has the Kurt Russell. Like his head is just Kurt Russell from The Thing, but like it's just tapping along to. Because I remember to "Get Back." I remember when we should do one of these days.
Dress up like Kurt Russell.
Yes, all the different versions of Kurt Russell. I retweeted. I think One Perfect Shot had like the faces of Kurt Russell. It was just like. the beards and patches and hair. We should, if we ever do like the Twitch stuff or whatever, as like a little add-on to the Beatles thing, whenever down the road, fucking play Guitar Hero, the Beatles Guitar Hero.
I have it, man.
I remember TJ and I got it. Excuse me, the day it came out, and we beat it like 3 hours. But the image of like the CG Beatles playing on the rooftop is fucking great, man. It's so good.
So it's one of the most ironically, it's the Beatles at one of their most disparate. They're unraveling, but it's one of the most iconic images of the Beatles playing on top of the rooftops of London in January of 1969.
It might be like, I don't know. It's I say too early, but we're not done yet, obviously, with the entire thing. But
we still have 3 episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, like it may be my favorite like image of the Beatles, like in terms of like on the rooftop, like that look. Harrison's got like that green jacket thing.
Yeah, it's a raincoat.
Yeah.
Well, so and Ringo's got the raincoat. He's got the red raincoat.
Yeah, and Harrison's got like the green thing, and they all are just wearing their.
Lennon's got the fur coat.
Yeah, and they're just jamming and stuff, and the microphones are blowing in the wind, and the cops are coming up, but. I also love their
people are on their lunch break and stopping and filling the streets of London to look up.
Some people are pissed, some people aren't. It's a great song. Fantastic. Maybe my favorite song on the album.
It's a winner. The next one is kind of a song that had existed before, like Please Please Me. It was an early Beatles number. It's called The One After 909.
This is on Anthology 1. Disc 1. That's how far back it goes, And so I always this kind of blew my little elementary school mind when I first heard this idea that they were talking to musicians about who grew up, seeing the Beatles being inspired by Ed Sullivan, and then growing up, and then by the time Let It Be came out, a lot of those same kids were teenagers now, or like in college, and in their mind, looking back on it now, they love it, but like when they were there in the thick of it in like the late 60s, they were like, the Beatles were backtracking. Everyone else was going forward, and the Beatles were backtracking to like what they used to do. And a song like this is a perfect example. I think it's a fine song. It's executed well, and it's an interesting idea to put this on what would be their last released album.
Yeah,
but I think it's a weird, misstep.
Maybe because of the name of the the spirit of the album or the sessions. Let's get back to where we once belonged. Let's kind of do the live stuff again. It's like you had kind of done that with the White Album.
Yeah. But also like
and you had done it better.
Yeah, and I feel like even with this song, like they were like holding back. You know what I mean? Like they could have rocked and rolled on this one a little. You know what I mean? Because if you listen to like, of course they're like 8 years younger, but you listen to like the Anthology 1 version, and it's like great jam. It's fine. I remember whenever it's on, I'm my foot's tapping along and I enjoy it, but it's just. It's not.
My sister hates this song because she hates, as she puts it, Cowboy Beatles.
Cowboy Beatles.
It's very much like a Cowboy Beatles song.
Yeah. Pick up my bag. I remember the big
at the station.
Then I find I got the number wrong. Whoa! And I remember when I was a kid, I'd be really all about the lyrics, and I'm like, oh shit, he's at the wrong train. This whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's not a bad song. It's just not a great one. They play it on the roof. If that makes it better.
Yeah, it was probably fun for them.
Yeah,
which is of course most important for them why they're doing it. But.
I would keep this song over Dig It and Maggie May.
Yes,
because it's an actual fucking song, not a jam session.
Yeah.
The next one is the most out of place. It's a great song, but it's the most out of place on the album. It's The Long and Winding Road.
This is the song that I like more than Let It Be from McCartney.
Really?
And
even the Spector version.
Well, it's hard because, I grew up for years just thinking that's what it was supposed to be, You
didn't know about the letter.
Yeah, until much later. And so hearing the stripped down version, it's not as emotional. It's much more...
McCartney had envisioned it as a stripped down sad song.
Yeah. The melodrama is obviously not there because the rising, the crescendo of the strings, but
chorus,
yeah. But I
clutch my breasts when I do that.
Send and clutch your breasts. Music drives you wild.
You got great expectations.
Great melody. I always have to preface that or end it with that. But I think what I love about this song is it's. The reason I like it a little more than Let It Be is like McCartney, even though he's trying his best, he knows it's over.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, I always thought like I could have sworn you could hear McCartney on a couple lines is like on the verge of cracking, because like he's singing about this long journey that they've been on, and it's the last single they ever release.
Yeah.
And so it's, again, how bittersweet for that. And I think if this is a song that he released just like in the middle of the Beatles history, it's fine. But I think because it's surrounding all of the stuff going on, and it's, McCartney's obviously writing about personal things that are going on, and he's not usually writing about personal things. A lot of times he's writing about character.
Granny shit.
Yeah, granny shit. He'll be making up, characters and stuff. He writes about himself actually probably more so than any of the other Beatles. But anyway, scratch all that. But I was thinking of Lennon. But I think it's this really bittersweet snapshot of the Beatles. And again, I think that's why I like it a little more. I don't think it's necessarily a better song than Let It Be. I don't think it is. But I like this kind of moment that's encapsulated by the Beatles. And, because I grew up and for years and years and years, I do take the Spector one over the stripped down one. Yeah. And, I wish I didn't, because you want to always side with McCartney and not fucking Phil Spector. But
you always want to side with the artist, but then you're like, well, I grew up with this one.
And, and it doesn't sound awful. Like, it sounds like something McCartney would do. Yeah. And the funny thing is,
70s era McCartney.
I'm pretty sure when he plays it live, like, the orchestra's there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I've never seen him. I mean, I've only seen him once.
I think I got to check again. I don't remember. I think he played it live once. But, like, it works. And if you hear that, there's two different guitar solos too.
Yeah,
that Harrison does great guitar solos as well. Also on Let It Be as well. Yeah. Don't want to forget about old Harrison on guitar.
Yeah, he had kind of like during the White Album sessions, was trying to make a conscious effort into the rest of the Beatles' lifetime, which again at that point was only like 2 years. He was trying to get back to guitar. He's like, I've had my fun with the sitar and the tambura, but I started out as a guitarist. And you can hear that more on the next song.
Yeah,
the next song being "For You Blue," which is kind of him trying to do this like big bluesy number. There's even a point like during the guitar solo where he's like, Elmore James has got nothing on this.
Yeah,
he's like he's playing this like really cool blues solo, and yeah, that was him trying to get back to the kind of guitar playing style that he had grown up with.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you have the Beatles as a whole getting back to where they once belonged with 909. You have Harrison with this track.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer this or I Me Mine?
Probably I Me Mine.
Yeah.
Lennon and McCartney, I guess, are kind of going back as well. I mean, McCartney literally is singing about getting back. But, they all are taking their kind of cues, But yeah, it's fine. It's these are not the best Harrison efforts. They're fine songs. Of course, he saves what I think is his best fucking masterpiece for the next album. But
he's got like
two. There's two masterpieces, but there's one in particular we've already kind of talked about. But it's fine. Yeah.
To finally get back to the to get back to the spirit of the entire album sessions. The last song on the entire album was its original namesake.
Yeah.
Get Back.
Which is funny because the Let It Be Naked, I think, opens with Get Back.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think some people, like, I would not put this on, like, the Mount Rushmore of McCartney songs. Yeah. Some people, this is, like, their fucking jam. And, it's cool because, like, I was just, like, I just liked it. I think it's a great McCartney song.
It's a great driving number.
It's a really great driving beat. But, it was always interesting and cool to meet people who were like, no, Get Back is the fucking greatest song. I'm like, cool, man. Like, I think it's a great jam and it's fun to hear live.
On the Love do you call it a remix?
Yeah.
It's like a soundtrack.
Yeah, it's a mashup.
Yeah.
Which sounds like so 2015.
Yeah. Where's my Jay-Z Linkin Park Collision Course Part 2?
Oh.
I ordered a Frappuccino. Where's my fucking Frappuccino? Doing da-da-da-da-da-da. If you're feeling like a pimp.
Oh, Christ.
That brings me back to that brings me back to my last year of high school. But in the Love mashup, God, it just
remix.
Yeah, it just turns
the Love album.
Yes, the Love album. It turns my insides whenever I call it. They combine it with the drum solo and some of the guitar stuff from the end, and it's cool because I guess you get Because as a prologue, but Love really starts with Get Back because you're getting back to the history of the Beatles.
It's perfect. I mean, again, my surprise in people loving the song wasn't that I thought it was a bad song. It was that like people were like, "Fucking no, this is the best," and that's cool, man. Like I think it's just a great McCartney number. It's a strong McCartney number.
It's Billy Preston's strongest contribution to the entire album, with him on the keyboards. Again, of course, they play it on the rooftop. It's they're playing it when the concert's getting busted up by the police. Yeah. Like McCartney's calling out the police as they're like entering the studio.
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh, mother called the cops on you because
And this is the song that he would supposedly stare at Yoko, right?
Yeah, he would sing it according to John Lennon and Yoko Ono, who it's a bias source, but come on. Every time.
But again, I believe it.
Yeah, I do. It's not far off. Every time McCartney in the studio would say the line, "Get back to where you once belong," he would look right at Yoko Ono. It's like awkward.
Bam, bam. No, it's cool, man. Like it's one of those songs.
Also, he's talking about pot and he's talking about like transvestites in the song. It's awesome.
Progressive McCartney. No, it's a great song, man. It really is.
Originally, it was like it was a satire on immigration. It was like he was making fun of British politicians that were trying to like curb like Pakistani immigrants into the country. Like then he decided to kind of like tone it down. It's like, let's just keep it about pot and transvestites. Yeah. So it's like, okay.
If all the songs were as thorough and like just fucking well done as this on the album, it'd be a fucking fantastic album.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, overall, how would you put Let It Be?
The album itself?
Yeah.
It's like one of the worst Beatles albums.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's
some songs I love. I mean, we've been over it. There's some songs I absolutely love on this album, but as a whole,
again, because you have Dig It.
You've got Maggie May.
You have two Harrison numbers that are fine.
Yeah.
You have
there's just no flow. They try to make
there
it
is
flow.
No flow.
Yeah.
Although, you know what's really weird?
And some of the production value on this fucking is terrible.
It is. But you know what's weird though? I love the album cover.
Oh, it's a great
I love the
cover.
album cover.
It's a great album
It's like
cover.
one of my favorite album covers by the Beatles. But it's just all fucking hairy. Yeah. Just like thinking about
just like
fucking glorious. I think Lennon has his beard shaved on the front cover, and Harrison just has the stash, and so does Ringo. But fucking McCartney is balls to the wall with the beard.
Yeah,
and like McCartney's got like looks happy, but like again, you have these like fucking mammoth songs like Let It Be.
Yeah, Let It Be. I mean, Let It Be and Get Back Alone are in the big Beatles pantheon.
Yeah,
you could make the same argument, a lesser argument, but a similar argument for Across the Universe and I've Got a Feeling.
I think in Long and Winding Road too.
Yeah,
I'm not just saying that, but I think
it was a #1 single.
Yeah, and the fact that it's the last single, like the last Beatles single is called "The Long and Winding Road."
Yeah, it comes out after the band's officially announced they've broken up.
I remember Jerry Seinfeld had like a funny joke about like the Beatles started off. It's like their career was like a marriage, where it's like one of their first things. I want to hold your hand. It's very innocent, and by the end, it's the long and winding road. Like you just want to end it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we got one album left, studio album left to talk about, and it's crazy to think we're already near there.
Single compilation, yeah.
But this is, although it's weird, man. Remember how weird it was talking about Magical Mystery Tour? Like, I'm not saying Magical Mystery Tour is like a lesser album, but remember like that realization where like this fucking album's dark.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the difference is going to Let It Be. I've always thought Let It Be was one of the weakest Beatles albums.
Yeah, and it is because you look, just what we were talking about, like, there's just filler. There's and for a band that's firing on cylinders for so long, even with the White Album, it's a double album. It's still way more good than not good.
Way more good
than not good.
Than not good.
Yeah. Way more good than not good. Way more good than not good.
Lieutenant Dan, what happened to your legs?
I ain't got no legs, Forrest. But
make space shuttles out of these, Forrest.
Christ Almighty. I just like I have all these fucking lines from that movie frozen in my head. I mowed that lawn for free.
It happens. Shit.
Yeah. Lieutenant Dan invested me in some kind of fruit company. I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is. And then he puts his hands on his back. That's one of the funniest fucking things. It's like a sad ass scene, but like when he walks outside the screen door and he just puts his hands like almost up to his armpits. He's like, is that Forrest? Sure as hell is. He does that weird handshake wave. Anyway, read the book. It's fucking out of its mind.
The buttocks.
Yeah. Oh man, that book's fucking out of its mind, dude.
Yeah, and there's a sequel book,
Gump and Company, which I've never read, but I read the book and it's fascinating. There's a lot more shit that goes on in that book. He goes to space.
Yep.
Lands on a cannibalistic island with a chimp.
Yep.
Janie doesn't die either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, weird. Yeah, Robin Wright makes it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that's Let It Be.
What would you? Okay, so your favorite song on the album is?
I would say overall, I've Got a Feeling.
Okay, and your least? Well, I mean, fucking. It's either.
Yeah.
It's probably Dig It. Maggie May. One after 909.
It's Dig It, even though I love the fucking end of it. But Maggie May at least is like
coherent.
Something.
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah.
BBC
and the FBI.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Anyway, I mean, yeah. So yeah, but I mean, I think I've Got a Feeling probably. Long One was great, and of course, Let It Be, and
it's always a toss up between. Yeah, it's probably Let It Be followed by Get Back, and then I've Got a Feeling. If I had to rank them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this has been another. Like we were kind of hinting at, we've only got one studio album left.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's weird, man. And then we've got like a two.
Basically 3 episodes and that's it.
3 episodes and then we're done with the Beatles. We'll have been doing this nowhere near as long as the Beatles. What the fuck am I even talking about? What the fuck am I even talking about?
Yeah, I mean, in the span we've done this, they released like what 2 albums,
2 or 3,
or 3 albums,
yeah.
And we've released like just us laughing for fucking
like Mad Men,
laughing like Mad Men for 11 hours so far.
Yeah,
or not 11 hours, but close.
Yeah, 13 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah.
What's the James Franco film?
127 hours?
127 hours.
Remember in This Is the End? Have you ever seen This Is the End?
Yes.
When he's just like, and 1 camcorder from 27 hours. And James Franco's like, 127 hours. The pistol from Flyboys.
Yeah. It's loaded, man.
Yeah,
but...
I'd cast James Franco as the Joker.
Okay.
Just like throwing it out there.
I could see that, sure.
Although, real quick, I'd like to have this on fucking audio, because I just read about it before we came over here, and I know you're a fucking Bowie fanatic.
Yeah.
They asked Frank Miller who should play Joker, like, in a perfect world, and he said if he could cast The Dark Knight Returns with anyone he wanted, it would have been David Bowie for the Joker.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he said the reason is because he got in a 6-hour argument with Alan Moore about the Joker. A 6 fucking hour argument. I put a thing on Facebook, like the fly on that wall would be dead. I would be a fly on the wall, but you'd be dead by the time the conversation was over. Just these 2 men shouting at each other, probably.
About a fictional homicidal clown.
Well, again, just real quick, Frank Miller, or Alan Moore's thing was like, he's a lunatic. And Frank Miller's thing, it's funny, reading any of his stuff, he's like, he's not a lunatic. He's satanic. Like, that's what, he's a fucking, like, the embodiment of evil. It's not about being a lunatic. Anyway,
Morrison would agree with it.
Yeah.
Morrison was like, he's more sane than sane.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that
more
mean?
sane than sane. That's why I mean, I think one of his best Jokers is the All-Star Batman and Robin, where he's just a fucking quiet menace. But anyway, just to add a little Bowie to it, I was like, Jesus Christ, it even would look like
I thought about doing following this up with a Bowie podcast, but I'm kind of like, I'm good on music podcasts.
Oh, dude, so am I. Yeah. I still got a ways to go.
You just got
I haven't
out
got
of
to the
70s,
80s. Yeah, I'm not even in the 80s technically yet, so I got a ways to go with Kiss. And I'm loving it because it's fun, and I get to bring, all kinds of different people on.
I think I'm going to do Zelda next.
Oh.
And then maybe I'll go into David Bowie. But that's like a 27-week commitment.
Woo, boy. I mean, I want to do, I still got a long ways to fucking go. But I did movies and music, but I definitely am looking to, like, maybe, like, comic book oriented.
Comic books would be, I mean, that's kind of our oeuvre these days.
Yeah. But I have we all have our certain little...
eccentricities.
Yeah. So... Who knows? You'll know, though, because,
you'll find out.
You could be listening to this in the fucking future, and you're like, we already know what you're doing, and it's terrible, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. Remember how Geek Out ended? Yeah. Just in a fucking fiery mess.
Yes, right. Yeah. The house implodes on itself.
Yeah, it's like...
Sorry, Chris.
It's like the house in Poltergeist.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, it just... Yeah, with us in it.
Just going...
It'll be a fucking national tragedy.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been another installment of Deconstructing the Beatles. Hopefully we won't deconstruct.
Yeah.
I'm Sam.
I'm Jake.
We'll see you guys next time. This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a new commentary every Monday. We've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.